Hi, I'm Savannah Jones, and this is DMG's Bootstraps and Business. And today we're going to talk with David Eldred. He is the Chief Experience Officer at Solarity Credit Union. So we're going to find out what that position is and hear about his years throughout the financial industry, years in banking and marketing and as a leader with startups. And we're going to find out some of the challenges he's faced over the years in regards to marketing and how it's changed. And now that we're in the digital age, how they're applying those techniques and expanding their toolbox in regards to marketing automation in the world of banking. Thank you, David, so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. So let's just jump on in. Why don't you just let me know a little bit more about you, where you're from, and then we'll jump into how you got interested in banking and what that looked like.
Sure. Okay, sure. Yeah, my name is David Eldred. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for Solarity Credit Union. We're headquartered in Yakima, Washington, which makes us, a smaller player within a segment of our region. But, our charter is statewide. And so we have aspirations to, extend our services into areas where we don't have physical presence. And a lot of that is hope to be born on the shoulders of digital and digital enablement, not just digital marketing, but also just digital transformation in general. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be a regional player. So
a growth mindset.
Right, exactly. That's what it is about. Sometimes I get the question, what's a chief experience officer? And it can mean different things for different organizations. But for Solarity, what it means is that I oversee a few different business units that I think kind of have a magical little synergy together. Of course, marketing reports up through me, also our business intelligence team, and then our customer experience or CX team, all kind of work together. And in some organizations, those are silos, but the advantage of having them roll up through a chief experience officer is that we can kind of leverage what each of those disciplines brings to strengthen what each can deliver. So marketing informed by business intelligence and data-driven insights, CX kind of bringing into the fold those emotional qualities of what it's like to be a member or a prospect of our credit union. And remember that emotion plays a huge role in terms of loyalty and what your impressions are of an organization. And so those three disciplines kind of come together to create this unique way of looking at how we put ourselves out there, how we use data to derive insights, and then make it an exceptional experience for our members and prospects.
So how did you get interested in banking? Was it always banking, or was it marketing, or how did you start down that path?
Yeah, I suppose that's somewhat interesting. I actually had said I would never work in banking. My father had been the president of a small credit union up in Bellingham, Washington, industrial credit union. And having grown up, with somebody in financial services, I was kind of a kid looking at that and saying, yeah, I don't want to do that. And Dad, that's just not for me. And then,
that's not cool.
No, it was not. At the time I had hoped to be the great American novelist. I got my degree in English, and then of course, as I approached graduating with an English degree, I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? And I happened to be working for a bank at the time, and wrote a very fateful letter to the president of the bank at the time. And I said, so, I've got an English degree, and I'm interested in public relations and marketing, and if there was anything that you might have that would kind of make use of those skill sets, I would be really interested in learning more. And I think I told you the very next day I got a call from the head of HR, and she says, how did you know about this position, David? And I said, what position? And she said, well, we've been thinking about, since we went public a year ago, we need somebody to write our press releases and kind of interface with our analyst community, and also to be a marketing assistant. And so you wear a couple hats in one position. And I said, great, sign me up. And that was the beginning of kind of the launch, not only into really cementing financial services, which I had said previously I would never do, but also marketing, which really didn't even appear on my horizon until it came time to like, what am I going to do with this degree? And it worked out really well for me. I just love marketing because it's always something different. I always had kind of an analytical bent to how I went about leading the organizations that I was, working marketing through. And so data and analytics were very early elements of my marketing outreach. And then the experience side, in the newness of titles, I suppose chief experience officer probably didn't exist 10 years ago, maybe. But bringing those three disciplines together, it's kind of magical to me how it all happened, because you've got the marketing making the promise, informed by data and analytics to help us be more scientific about this, and then the emotional side of what is the journey like for a prospect to become aware of us, to consider us, to evaluate and choose us, and then ultimately, fulfill on being that member advocate, telling other people about how great it is to bank with Solarity. Kind of brings all of those disciplines together in one area, which I think is just great.
Well, let's talk more about that, but let's talk about some of your background, because you've been in the financial services industry, but you've also been involved with other projects. So let's just kind of take a look at that, because I definitely want to come back to marketing automation and where it was when you started, where it is today, and how people can kind of navigate that minefield, because it changes so much. So let's talk about some of the other industries and projects and programs that you were in along the way.
Okay, sure. I mean, I've always worked in financial services. I mean, the first management job was investor relations and marketing manager for a bank. And then there were a few banks along the way as I went to other competitors and started to kind of propel my career forward. So financial services has been the core of my 9 to 5. I think maybe you've picked up on some of the bankerpreneur that's been in me in my past. And
right.
I've been fortunate that some of those organizations recognized some of that creative side for creating something that was, hopefully innovative. And so in addition to marketing, there was stints in product management, product development, trying to come up with new ways to, innovate within financial services. And a few little endeavors along the way, early in my career, a little moonlighting in cellular, and even home brewing as an aspiring home brewer before it was cool, So that entrepreneurial mindset, I think, though, is part of what I think is necessary, especially for banks and credit unions nowadays, because there's a lot of fintechs and other challengers to what oftentimes is viewed, I think, by outsiders as kind of this sleepy industry that doesn't innovate and doesn't try new things and wants 12 case studies of how it'll happen before they pull the trigger on trying something new. And maybe there are probably quite a few competitors of ours that still think of marketing in that way, marketing as a cost center instead of a revenue engine. And yet I think that, as consolidation has happened in financial services, there's probably half the number of banks and credit unions that there were even 15 years ago. And some of them have been players who just didn't embrace that change, that data-driven mindset to really understand, well, what is this thing called digital marketing, and what is the experience that we're putting on our members and prospects if they want to do business with us? How hard are we making it for them to do that? Until disciplines like customer experience came along, CX, people kind of, I don't know, companies could sort of build a widget and hope that people would come, but also put things in the way of doing business with them. The more you make it difficult for somebody from the user experience side of how to navigate a website and get to a point of action, or just making it discoverable among a sea of competitors. The challenge has always been the same in marketing, deliver quantifiable results to meet a business objective. And yet the tool set to do that has just gone ballistic in terms of the complexity and all the different things that you can try to help bring that about. Digital marketing, isn't new, and yet the tools to drive that function forward are very complex. And Digital Marketing Group is one of the vendors that we've partnered with to try to make sense of all this data that is out there to help us be relevant to our members and our prospects.
So let's just talk a little bit about how the landscape of marketing has changed since you started, and if there are any elements that are consistent that, from the beginning A to Z that you're still implementing. And then let's get into marketing automation and what that really is and how you apply it.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, I have been at this a while. And, my first banking job was, at least management level was 1990. And back then, I didn't have a PC on my desk. In fact, we didn't have one on the mezzanine floor of the executive suites. And so when I wanted to create an ad, it blows some of the minds of my contemporaries when I say, I used to get out my X-Acto knife and I would cut out the line of text that I would get from the local print shop, and I would run it through a wax machine to make it sticky so that I could put it on a light board and stitch together this ad that I would then take to the newspaper, and they would take a photograph of it, and that's how we made a print ad. That took a long time.
Those things have changed. Things have changed a bit.
A little bit, yeah. And so, I've been around when the first PC hit my desk, and I had to share time with other department managers so that we could each have time on the PC. And then thankfully, everybody had a PC, and then everybody had email, and then everybody had websites. And I think one of the things that I think is been continuous along that evolution, though, is that data is something that, at least especially within financial services, was such a data-rich environment. Banking and credit unions know so much about their members that your life could probably be mapped with the transactions you do with your debit card or your credit card, or if you still write a check, where are you writing those checks? And yet it's always been such a challenge to harness that data and bring it together. I think it was 1995 we made our first investment in what was called an MCIF system, which stood for Marketing Customer Information File, where we took all of the data sources across the bank at the time and brought them together into this one kind of holistic view of who our customer was. And it unlocked the ability to see who were our more profitable customers, those people who had multiple relationships with the bank at the time, and those who were using us in ways that were causing us to, take a loss. And tapping into that data, at the time, I remember thinking very distinctly back in the late 90s, wouldn't it be great if I could somehow know which pages of our website somebody was visiting, so that I could know that they were interested in maybe a home loan or a business loan or a credit card, and reach out to that specific person. It would be very efficient for our marketing dollars. We couldn't do that at the time. The technology didn't exist. And yet now, here we are with marketing automation systems where we've got scripts that we can put on our website. And we know when you come to our website the first time, we know that you came back a second and third time. And we can use that data then to try to stay in front of you when you go to elsewhere on the web. And, everybody's been doing remarketing for a long time. That's nothing new, right? But to be able to do that in real time across online and offline channels to speak to people wherever they are, and about products and services that we're not guessing anymore. We know that you're interested in this by virtue of what you're doing. And those behavioral signals that kind of tip your hand as to, no, I really am interested in refinancing versus purchasing my home. I'm looking to do that soon because I've visited these other websites, and being a choice for somebody when they have many, many, many dozens of competitors out there who are very eager to do the same thing that we can do, and to help them choose us instead of our competition is a game that's very data driven. And so if there was a continuous kind of thread throughout that 30-year span, I would say it's been the evolution of using data to more accurately target who is a prospect, who's a member who's in motion, and remaining relevant to people based on what we know that they're interested in by virtue of what they're doing. So I think that's been a great, evolution of just the discipline of data and marketing and experience to kind of map out more purposeful experiences that we want people to have so that they have a great experience rather than a haphazard one.
So we're not through the pandemic yet, and obviously financial services, banking, a high touch environment. How did your marketing help get through this phase and transition from that high touch to not so much?
Well, it's interesting, I think it was in the year 2000, wasn't there an author? I think his name was John Nesbitt, and he wrote Megatrends 2000. And it was a book that talked about how, as technology continues to integrate itself more and more in our lives, that the fear was that we would all just be robots and that we would lose that human connection. And yet the opposite has become true. If you think about it, I mean, even the advent of social media was an endeavor to use technology to maintain connectedness to people that we know and care about. And so that connectedness that, when the pandemic caused shutdowns to occur and, bank and credit union lobbies were closed, people still had to do their banking. And so it was this kind of magical inflection point where, certainly technology goes through an arc, right, of early adopters taking on new technology and then becoming more and more mainstream. And again, the echoes of the past kind of inform the present and the future. I can tell you that a very similar story back in 1992 when deregulation was occurring within financial services, and this new machine called an ATM was kind of becoming more and more widespread. And yet people would walk past an ATM to go stand in line at the teller counter for their turn to stand in front of the teller, who would give them, cash their check and allow them to withdraw cash. And they'd put $300 or $500 in their wallet and walk out the door. And they would spend, and I would literally watch from the mezzanine of the bank lobby, and I would watch these people queue up, sometimes a dozen deep, to wait for their time to be helped by a teller. And yet this machine was sitting right there. They could walk up to it and put their card in and get cash out. And we were struggling with trying to get people to adopt that technology. And back in the day, we came up with this idea, well, let's pay people. Let's pay people to try it, right? Like, you want to just, instead of going to the teller, we'll give you $5. In 1992, that meant more. $5 to try a transaction at the ATM 3 times. You do that, we'll pay you $5. And what we found was that if we could get people to try the ATM 3 times, they saw the value, and pretty soon they weren't standing in the lobby line anymore to see a teller. They would just go to the ATM and get the cash. And so, the same things happened throughout the years, when bill pay became kind of a new entrant into financial services. And, I'd like to say I was an early adopter, but I really didn't adopt it right away. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, licking stamps and sealing envelopes and writing out checks and stuffing envelopes to pay my bills. And yet when I finally said, okay, I work for a bank, I should at least try this bill pay thing, it was like, why didn't I do this sooner? I save easily half an hour to an hour of my time each week by going into online banking and paying my bills through bill pay. And here we are today with the advent of not the advent, but mobile banking really kind of hitting the mainstream, and this becoming the branch in your hand. Literally, I can do everything on my smartphone that I could do by going into a bank lobby. So when the pandemic hit and you couldn't go into lobbies, there's I would call the middle majority of people who might have tried it, but they didn't really embrace it. They kind of stuck with the things that they had always done in terms of meeting their banking needs. And some of that meant going to the bank, standing in the line to go talk to a teller to make their loan payment or to deposit a check. And yet they couldn't do that. And so we started, amping up our messaging to them about, hey, our app allows you to deposit checks. And we would hear back from members, yeah, I heard that, but my check is handwritten and it's not going to be able to recognize the handwriting. And we were like, no, it will. You enter that, and all you have to do is take a picture. And it was fascinating to kind of see the light bulb kind of turn on for people as it's like, okay, well, I can't come in and do it the way I've always done it, so I guess I'll give it a try. And and then pretty soon people are like, wow, I should have done this a lot sooner. I can just schedule my loan payment to be made automatically, and I will never have a late fee again. And so there's this groundswell, I think, brought about by this thing that nobody wanted to have happen, called the pandemic. And yet good things are coming from it as people realize they don't have to spend as much time doing their banking. And all of this technology can make it better, faster, easier for them to take care of business and free up their time to do the things they really love to do, which probably have a lot less to do with banking than, their hobbies and other interests. So I think it's been a good thing of the pandemic. If there's a silver lining in there somewhere, that more and more people have embraced the technology tools, and yet there's still the need and the desire for human connectedness. And, Solarity is endeavoring to be on the forefront of that yet again. We're right now installing what we call smart ATMs in all of our branches, all of our drive-throughs, so that when you drive up, you can do pretty much everything that you could do at a human teller and do it through an interactive display where you can make your loan payment, transfer funds, get cash, even get a cashier's check, or other more nuanced transactions, get a mini statement printed out of your transaction history, and do it all at this device. And what we hope, what is going to happen from that, is that our staff then will be freed up to do those more consultative, human-to-human kind of interactions where our staff can use their knowledge of financial services, products, and services to advise people on how they can meet their financial goals better, faster, easier, and plan for what's important in their life, whether it's saving for a home or buying their first home or refinancing and freeing up some of their cash flow for maybe an RV that they want to buy or a new car. So our staff are as important as ever in helping our members accomplish their financial goals, and yet technology and oftentimes data is what's powering that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about marketing automation, and somebody who is listening to us and watching us right now, who has been considering engaging and investing in digital marketing. How do they start? What does that even look like? Because you've been through the evolution, and digital marketing is here now. And I don't have my cell phone near me, but you showed yours, and that's really our main frame of operation. Everybody uses one, and you're in constant contact with banking, financial services, family, friends. I mean, everybody lives their life through their mobile device. So what would you suggest for somebody who hasn't jumped on board and they really are looking at a marketing plan, but they don't know where to get started or how to get started?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, marketing automation is a very necessary tool in the tool chest for any kind of modern marketing organization. And there's a few, takeaways. I think when I first started kind of getting into marketing automation, one of our early goals was to kind of free up the marketing staff from having to remember, quite frankly, all of the different triggers that would occur throughout the life cycle of a year of marketing, right? There's a body of work that needs to be accomplished by a marketing team to drive business forward. And one of our goals was to free up the marketing staff so that some of these things that occur every year could be automated, and we wouldn't have to necessarily think about it or remember, oh yeah, we've got to do that new auto promotion in the early spring, or a back to school checking account promotion in the fall. Those things can be built initially and then automated so that they just recur. And that frees up the marketing staff to then build another automation that might be more triggered by what a prospect or a member does on our website. And so if you want to paint an ecosystem, if you will, of what marketing automation can do, think of maybe a prospect who comes to our website the first time, and we don't know who they are, but they're clicking around our website because they're on a mission. Maybe they're upset with their current provider and they want to jettison them into deep space, and they're looking for somebody else to help them with that. And Google kind of says that 9 out of 10 consumers do research online before they ever set foot in a branch or call us on the phone. They're out there kind of silently investigating who do they think they want to align with, not only in terms of the products and services, but also kind of culturally fit. Like, do you really want to bank with a big bank? I mean, why would you do that to yourself? And so, there's research that they're doing on our website to check us out. And yet marketing automation allows us to register that event, see if they come back a second time. Perhaps they fill out a lead form or log into online banking and identify, oh, you're an existing member. So we know who you are. And we know that, financial services, it's not quite as cool as an iPhone, right? People don't come to our website to check us out because we're the cool tech gadget. They come to us because they have a financial decision they're pondering. So we know who you are, and maybe you go to our home loan page and you're looking, you're drilling down to our refinance area. And so we can kind of surmise that maybe you're an existing homeowner, you've got a loan, and you're interested potentially in refinancing. And so we immediately trigger an email that might arrive in your inbox a few minutes later that says, hey, we've got a variety of home loan programs to help you, and you can take this short quiz to help us figure out, or help you figure out, which program might be best for you. And if you engage with that piece of communication, it's going to increment your score, your engagement score. And we might then say, they're actively engaged in this, so maybe it would be good for us to reach out and contact them through our contact center. And so we call them, and that call gets registered within our CRM. And the CRM shows that they've been active looking, and then we reached out to them. They clicked on the email, they opened the email, they may have even taken that little interactive quiz. And so the connection is made with the contact center rep, who takes an application to pre-qualify them over the phone. We get them into the funnel for the home loan, and ultimately that loan is closed and appears within their portfolio, and shows up in the CRM, so that we've got a kind of a full picture view of, okay, well, they've got a home loan and they had good credit, so maybe they would need some home improvement projects after they closed their home loan. Maybe we could stay in front of them with the idea of using some of their equity to improve their kitchen or remodel their bathroom. And we're talking to them about these financial products, but we try to do it in a way that it's not about us, it's about them. And, who wouldn't like a better kitchen with maybe one of those cool cook's islands and a, gas stove or one of those nice fans over the thing so we don't set off the smoke alarms when we try to cook. And so all of this data is creating this little ecosystem of engagement. And if people are engaging with that content, they're doing it because they're at least semi-interested, and we can stay in front of them and be relevant to what they're interested in, not this kind of old school spray and pray of, hey, it's time to do an auto promotion, so let's send an email to everybody because we've got auto loans and see who bites. And more purposefully, we can target people who are in motion, maybe already have that new car smell kind of in the wind, and we're looking to help facilitate that. So that's the beauty of marketing automation. It isn't limited to digital channels of email and the website. We can also, trigger direct mail that arrives in their mailbox. We can reach out and touch them by phone through our call center, and even texting. So it becomes an ecosystem. I liken it to kind of a spider web of touch points, where if you touch the web, then we can respond to you automatically through these systems to provide you helpful information that better informs the journey that you're on. And hopefully you find that valuable and you choose us.
It is changing all the time. And how do you keep up with the changes? I mean, or is it pretty steady? I mean, have you gotten to the place where you've got your systems down and because you're taking out a lot of the redundancy, so you do have systems down, but it's fluid, it's changing. So how do you keep up with the changes?
Yeah, it has changed a lot, and it continues to. I mean, there's just more and more tools. Today, we sat through a presentation from Salesforce about a new system that we might consider to help power some of those experiences. And oftentimes what I find it just comes down to is just kind of asking, well, how can I use this tool in a helpful way for our members? But then once you've answered that question, it's like, okay, what else can I do with this tool that might be unexpected? And, it leads to, happy discoveries. Some of them can be a little bit, it can weird you out a little bit. We are all leaving digital footprints just by getting up in the morning. Our smartphones know that. Mm-hmm. And they know what time we tend to touch our phone for the first time after we get up. And we know, where that phone travels to. I think it was, I may forget where I put my car keys, but it's about 5 minutes before I realize I don't remember where I put my phone. And so the mobile first kind of approach to our lives is a big part of that. And thinking about how we can combine some of these experiences and these channels to unlock kind of that ability to stay in front of somebody who might be doing something through their behaviors that leads insight to how we could then help them accomplish something that they're after better, faster, easier, more friction-free than ever before.
Well, is there anything else that you want to add or touch base on before we say our goodbyes?
I mean, I think it's never been a more exciting time to be a business person within financial services. It's definitely not the sleepy industry that some people may perceive. And the tools that allow us to better serve our members and prospects have never been more complex, but also never been more powerful to be relevant to people who are looking for help, quite frankly. And if we can, as business people, help people accomplish what they're interested in, then we're no longer, snake oil salesmen asking them to buy us. We're helping them achieve their financial goals in friction-free ways that make it easier than ever before to get their banking done and move on to what they're really interested in and doing the things that they love. So I'm looking forward to continuing, our partnership with DMG to do that. And it's a very cool time to be alive.
Yes, it's exciting and it's fluid, and there's always something new to apply and learn and grow through and move through and get to.
Yes, and some cases survive.
and I think we figured that out over the last year.
That's correct. Yep. Well, it was great talking to you today.
You too, and thanks, David. I appreciate your time.
All right. Have a great day.
Well, there's no doubt about it. The landscape of marketing has definitely changed over the years, and we are deep into the digital world. If you'd like to touch base with David, I'll leave his contact information in the show notes. If you'd like to find out more about DMG or these podcasts, I'll also leave that contact information in the show notes. Thank you so much for checking us out. If you have a guest idea or a topic idea, just let us know. Oh, and be sure to subscribe.